The vertebrate locomotor system. The locomotion of animals depends on how the skeletal and muscular systems work together in the locomotor system. Vertebrate skeletons are made up of bone, cartilage, tendons, and ligaments. The locomotor system includes the bones that provide shape, the muscular system, and the nervous system that move the bones. Joints are places where the ends of bones come together and the body can bend. They have cartilage and lubricating fluids that prevent bones from rubbing together. Joints also absorb some impact when vertebrates hit a hard surface, jump, or run. Muscle tissues are made up of cells that are filled with the cytoskeletal proteins actin and myosin. These cells are called muscle fibers. Muscle fibers form long filaments that can slide past one another. The sliding filament theory explains that when muscles are working, they contract using energy from ATP as actin and myosin filaments pull on each other. So here's your actin filaments, and here's your myosin. So here's where they're relaxed. They contract, right? They move this way. And after they finish, you can see how they're all lined up like this. The nervous system controls the muscular system. Nerve cells connect the central nervous system, remember that's the brain and the spinal cord, to each muscle in the body. The attachment point is called the neuromuscular junction. When a neuron carries strong enough impulses from the central nervous system to a muscle fiber, the muscle will contract. Muscles may be voluntary or involuntary. A decision for a person to work uphill uses the voluntary muscles for movement. However, the increase in heart rate that follows is due to the involuntary muscles. A person cannot increase their heart rate by thinking about it. About 600 different skeletal muscles control our movement. Skeletal muscles are voluntary muscles under the control of the somatic nervous system. We can carry out decisions or perform learned tasks using this type to carry out movements such as walking, typing, talking, and chewing. Skeletal muscles are attached to the skeletal system via tendons. Smooth muscles are involuntary. They surround our internal organs. They are controlled by the autonomic nervous system, a division of the peripheral nervous system. Smooth muscles tend to be involved with maintaining homeostasis. For example, they include the walls of glands and help control hormonal balance, and the muscle cells and artery walls where they help control circulation. Cardiac muscle, also called myocardium, is under the control of the autonomic nervous system. Its structure is similar to skeletal muscle because it is made up of units of sliding filaments called sarcomeres, yet it is not voluntary. The heart beats on its own. So here's our three types of muscle tissue. We have cardiac muscle cell, and that's making the heart pump up and down, or out and in. Skeletal muscle cells, over here, moving the skeleton, and that's voluntary. And then smooth muscle cells, and here, that's in the liver right there. And that operates without you doing anything. It does it automatically. And you can see the differences in the cells, hopefully. Many of the larger skeletal muscles are labeled in this diagram. And you can go ahead and view this link to view an enlarged diagram. And for even more information about the human muscular system, visit these two websites. Bones are moved by tendons. Tendons are bands of flexible connective tissue that attach muscles to bones. Tendons often connect across joints so that muscles on one side of a joint exert force on bones on the opposite side of the joint. Ligaments will stabilize joints by attaching bones to neighboring bones in ways that limit their movement. While your ankle is a flexible joint, it has limited side-to-side movement. When you sprain your ankle, you have overstretched the ligaments that keep your foot straight. And that's the point of this right here. It doesn't want your foot moving side by side. That's not good for it. Muscles, tendons, and bones work together to bend the arm. In the diagram on the following slide, the arm bends when filaments in the bicep slide past one another, shortening the muscle. The arm straightens when filaments in the tricep slide past one another, shortening that muscle. Muscles can only contract in one direction, and so they often work as an antagonistic pair. And in this case, we have the tricep straightening the arm, and the bicep is bending it. The skeleton gives the arm shape and a movable joint, the elbow. Though not labeled, the diagram shows that the muscles are attached to the skeleton with white tendons. So the first picture here shows that the biceps are contracted, right? So they get shorter and it pulls your arm up, and the triceps are relaxed, so they're stretching out here. And this is what you see when people make a muscle by moving their arm in that direction. Now, when you want to relax, the biceps now stretch, and the little muscle there, you can't see it anymore. And the tendons are stretching. They get longer. So now your arm is relaxed. Your triceps aren't, but the biceps are. And right over here is that hinge joint for your elbow. Complex movements, such as pushing off the ground with the foot, requires coordination of more than one muscle. Both the quadriceps femoris, up here, and the gastrocnemius, down here, must flex in order to jump. Muscles have a lot of phenotypic plasticity. And what is that? That's the phenotype for a given genotype can be modified by environmental impact. Most other body systems don't exhibit that. We can change our musculature by the way we use it. Athletic training changes the patterns of gene expression in the muscle cells, which leads to the changes in phenotype. Now, of course, changes in a muscle brought on by athletic training cannot be inherited by the next generation because they're not changing the genes. Yet training can make big impacts on a person's overall health and quality of life by modifying the phenotype. The two major types of training. We have endurance training that involves steady, long-duration exercise, such as long-distance running. And what does that do for you? That causes muscles to increase their number of mitochondria and blood vessels, bringing blood to the muscles. This allows muscle cells to use more glucose to produce ATP. Resistance training involves intense forces over a few repetitions or a short period of time, such as weightlifting. So here we have long-distance running, here we have weightlifting. During resistance training, muscles become visibly larger. The number of muscle cells doesn't change. That's pretty interesting. Rather, the cells of the muscle increase in size by increasing their amount of actin and myosin so that the muscles can produce larger forces.